Shalom Talmidim, Shemot Etzem Perek Chet, Nouns, Lesson 8, Irregular Noun Plurals. I've got good news for you and bad news. The good news is that we've reached the last of our videos about Hebrew noun plurals. The bad news is that we're dealing with irregular formations, which is to say, you can't predict the patterns. So in addition to the regular variations that we have already seen in noun plurals, some nouns will have irregular plural formations. There are basically two types of irregularity. Nouns that take the wrong gender plural suffix, feminine nouns taking im and masculine nouns taking ot in the plural, and nouns that change their spelling in unusual ways. Let's start with feminine nouns that take the suffix we normally associate with the masculine plural, im. For instance, Evan, which is feminine, has a plural uvanim with im, which we normally expect on masculine nouns, but this is a feminine plural. Or regel, we have already seen, has a dual, in lieu of a plural, raglayim, which looks like a masculine. In fact, in the case of regel and other endingless feminine nouns, they will normally take a dual in ayim. Only feminine nouns ending in kamatz he or tav will have the feminine dual in athayim, as we learned in the video on the dual. Now, how can we tell that these forms that I'm showing you here are all feminine? It's because they take feminine adjectives and feminine verb forms in agreement with them. We will learn these in future videos, but we will learn that all adjectives and verbs will agree with the nouns that they modify in gender and number. So the adjectives and the verbs will be our friend. The other way that we can tell quickly whether a noun is feminine or masculine is to look it up in a dictionary. They will usually tell you if there's anything unusual about the noun. There are more masculine nouns ending in ot than there are feminine nouns ending in im. So av, father, has a plural avot, and makom, place, a plural makomot. Levav and lev, we have already seen, are two forms that mean the same thing, heart or mind, will, emotions, etc. And the plurals end in ot, levavot and libot. Similarly, kol, voice or sound, has a plural kolot, still masculine, but with oath. And luach, tablet, or blackboard, whiteboard nowadays, has a plural luchot, still masculine plural, but ending in cholam vav tav, as we would expect from a feminine noun. There are some patterns or tendencies among the truly irregular plurals also. For instance, many of the words about family relationships, sister, brother, son, daughter, husband, wife, are irregular. We've already seen av, father, has an irregular oath, even though it's a masculine plural, avoth. And aim becomes immoth. Technically, this isn't an irregularity, because aim is a geminate noun, but for most students, geminates still look like irregular plurals. But ach, brother, does have a truly irregular plural, achim. Why does the kamatz go to patach? Who knows? It just does. And achot, sister, which looks sort of like a feminine plural of ach, but it is singular, has its own plural, achayot, which is truly strange. Ben, son, has the plural banim, with an unusual kamatz. Bath, daughter, has the plural banoth. Now, banim and banoth, compared to each other, look quite regular. Remove the eam and add an oath, and you go from sons to daughters. But compare either plural form with the singulars, and they truly are irregular. Similarly, ish, which means man or husband, has the highly irregular plural anashim. And isha, which means woman or wife, again, has a highly irregular plural nashim. When I was learning these as a student, I made a little trick for myself. Ish is relatively short, and anashim, its plural, is quite long, whereas isha is longer than ish, but the plural nashim is shorter than anashim. So the short singular goes with the long plural, and the long singular goes with the short plural. Notice as well that nashim, women or wives, has im on the end, but it is a feminine plural. Now, anashim, isha, and nashim all come from a root aleph, nun, shin. The dagesh forte in the shin in isha is actually because of an assimilated nun. A nun, right next to the shin, just made the shin double. And in fact, there is another noun in Hebrew, anosh, which means human, also from this same root, aleph, nun, shin. For now, I recommend that you particularly memorize anashim is as the plural of ish, and nashim as the plural of isha. It may, in fact, be useful to create new vocabulary cards for anashim and nashim. There are also quite a few words that irregularly have a vowel change to kamatz in the plural. Let's look at a few examples. We've already seen that ben becomes banim with a kamatz. The tsere goes to kamatz for some reason in the plural. And similarly, bath with a patach becomes banoth with kamatz. Here are some other nouns that do the same thing. Bayit, which we would expect would behave like other nouns with the diphthong I in them, actually becomes batim with kamatz gadol. And yom becomes yamim with kamatz gadol, a long ah, not kamatz chatuf, o. It's yamim. Similarly, Ir, city, which is feminine, has a plural arim. Not only has the chirik yod gone to kamatz, but this feminine plural has what looks like a masculine plural suffix. So two different types of irregularities in the one word. And rosh, which means head or top, becomes rashim with kamatz gadol. There are also a few words that just do not behave as we might expect. They are simply irregular. Fortunately, however, there aren't very many of them, and the consonants of the singular don't change into the plural. Here are two of the most common. Kali, which means, vessel or implement, or really anything that would be useful to have with you around the house, has the plural kelim, which is just unusual. Kali to kelim. And chayil, strength, acts like a segelet and has its plural chayalim. Now, in both cases, notice, although the vowels don't behave like we would expect, we clearly have plural forms in chirik yod and mem, so it's not a problem to recognize these as plurals, and the consonants that are there in the singular are still there in the plural. So, although yes, they are fully irregular in the way the vowels behave, still, it's not too hard to connect the plurals with the singulars. The more irregular a noun in the plural, the more help it will be if you just go ahead and memorize it. So for instance, ish to anashim, I recommend you just make a vocabulary card for the singular and a vocabulary card for the plural, and memorize anashim, men, as its own vocabulary item. Similarly, for many of the family terms, this will probably be your best course of action. Other nouns, like the feminines in im and the masculines in ot, you may be able to remember without making a separate card. Do whatever helps you recognize the plural and translate it best.